think one of the best people that we can look at on figuring out how we can join Jesus on his mission for this is actually to look at Zacchaeus, this dirty, rotten tax collector. The person that everyone thought that Jesus is absolutely crazy for wanting to go to his house. The best person to look at is Zacchaeus, because immediately we see in verses 8 and 9 and 10, he wants to join Jesus on his mission. Zacchaeus makes 3 big amends. The first thing he wants to do after this is he wants to give. What does it say? He says he stands up and he says, Lord, here and now, I give half my possessions to the poor. Remember the 2 details that Luke cared about Zacchaeus? That he is a tax collector and that he is rich. He has accumulated so much money. He has ripped off so many different people. This guilt that is suddenly building up inside of Zacchaeus, it's motivated by the gospel to say, no, I don't want to be attached to any of these things anymore. If this is going to siphon me off and cut me off from what the gospel has to say and to cut me off from who Jesus is, I don't want any of it. So I'll give half my possessions to the poor. He's not doing it to gain any sort of influence with Jesus. He's not trying to get any sort of special privilege. He just wants to do it because of God's grace. And now it's worked in his life. First thing he does is give, and then the next thing he wants to do is he wants to make amends. He wants to make amends with all the people that he says, if I've possibly wronged anyone, which is basically a confession that you have. And Zacchaeus knows he's wronged a whole lot of people as a tax collector. And he wants to make amends. He says, I want to pay them back personally. I want to do it 4 times more than they ever could. If you start to add up all the facts and figures of what he's saying, Zacchaeus is going to go bankrupt doing this. He's going to go bankrupt giving half of his possessions away to the poor. If he's giving back 4 times the amount that he stole from other people, and he stole from a whole lot of other people, he's not going to financially recover from this. But if it's all based on God's grace, he says, it's worth it. The next thing he does then is he goes and serves Jesus. Scriptures don't tell us exactly how, but church history does. The Bishop of Alexandria, his name was Clement, he mentions in one of his homilies how all the ways that Zacchaeus had been faithfully serving the church afterwards. And eventually we find out from church history that Zacchaeus becomes one of the overseers of the entire region of churches in Caesarea. This guy who was one of the most hated guys in the entire region now becomes one of the people that they identify with service to Jesus. All based on God's grace and only motivated by God's grace.